It is 2 in the morning and we have a passable army. Hello and welcome to another Artis Opus video. Apologies for the break that we've had. I may or may not have become completely burnt out from the process of being an army in absolutely no time whatsoever. Basically amounted to producing an army in 4 days. It was 2 evenings and then 2 full days, and I mean full, like every hour that I wasn't sleeping, pretty much. We got a pretty good end result out of it, and that was not down to knowing perfectly what we were going to do at the beginning. A lot of you noticed that there was a fair few changes in direction, but that did mean that I feel we made the correct decisions in terms of the end result, not the completion of the end result, like it didn't get 100% finished to a perfect level, but the colors that are there, the techniques that we used, and the overall appeal of the army, especially from, like an opponent's distance away, not like 1 inch in front, which it doesn't stand up to scrutiny from at all now. I think we did a really good job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a kind of, I will review my own army, I'm going to run through it, I'll be hypercritical, so that's fine. I can't defend myself, or maybe I can, let's see. We're going to go through the army, we're going to talk about what I used where and why and how, and then we're going to round it out with what I will be doing next. If there's any major failing points for the army, I will cover those too. So let's just jump in and let's see what I think of my own army and what I would be doing next with it, because that's kind of an interesting question. I think quite a few of you have asked about it, so let's jump into that. So I guess at this point we'll take it out of its very fancy transport solution. I was only travelling 30 minutes down the road, so it didn't require anything ridiculous, but obviously this isn't quite ideal. Let's pop it out and we'll start talking about it. I mean, number one, obvious even from this box, she is stealing the show, and that was intentional from, day dot. So let's pop her out and the army out, and then we can judge things on like a unit by unit basis and get a close up of the characters and stuff like that. This is not going to be very forgiving for me, so oh well. So I guess number one, let's start off with something that isn't going to be particularly forgiving for me. This is the terrain piece. So I approached this with the absolute minimum effort that I could get away with and still have it look appropriate. There is something here that I will be doing more in the future, and that is just making the most of kind of volumes and shapes on something this simple with metallics, because with a bit of a dry brush and then edge highlight and some airbrushing from below with darker stuff or even more purple stuff, you can really make things look quite cool. This bit, it's just a simple great shape. It's got a load of texture on it. It does some work for itself. I liked the idea of doing something fancy in this kind of marble-esque backdrop bit, but it's just so impractical. If anyone's got any ideas of, how that could be achieved, do let me know. I would maybe wash the skull as well or something like that, but I wanted this to stand out as silver. I still got to work out what I'm going to do with the middle bit. That will obviously bring a huge amount of colour to it, so maybe at that point I won't need to do anything else though. But yeah, this one, it's pretty effective. It's not hugely well done technically. I'd say it's about in the middle, but it's got a decent amount of impact. It's completely lacking that for this though. The main thing at this point though is that this and this they just don't gel together, so I need to work out a way to do that better. Moving on, should we go for the big lady? Alright, so considering the amount of time on this model, it looks pretty good. I have cut corners wherever possible, so stuff like the sheer fabric on the tights, that's been done with a couple of layers of wash. I actually, if we can just about get it in here, you can see I didn't go up to the edges with the wash. It's really stupid of me, so I'm going to see if I can subtly blend that in, but you're much better doing it in one rather than trying to fix it afterwards. Areas that didn't dry brush quite so well, there's one bit with a smear on the tummy, but the shoulders and stuff look pretty good, and then obviously the main event here is the wings, which look really, really, really great. So this is the foundations of something really nice. I don't know if I'm going to do any kind of like blotching or animal markings on the wings. I need to do some stuff to smooth out these wash areas. They're just not quite as good as I'd like, and then I've got to work out if I'm going to go in there properly and highlight all these areas. The airbrushing and dry brushing on these wings went extremely well, so they were airbrushed from below with dark and from above with light, and then they were dry brushed directionally, particularly this wing, which is much easier because stuff's all horizontal. All the airbrushing pretty much was done from the top, so only the top edges of these wrinkles were caught. That's why it looks so effective. Similar on the hair. I think maybe some washes need to be done on this. I don't know what final hair color it's going to be. Maybe I take it down darker and then bring it up again in the middle or something. And the face actually turned out fairly well. I just spent some time doing the eyes, which is obviously going to be important. It makes a difference on anything. And the metallics, I would like to bring them kind of all up to the level of this this one here. Really, really, really solid. Just looks actually shiny, and it kind of fits in with all the rest of it. You can see that around the wrist, perhaps I haven't gone as delicately as I should. And little areas like this, you can see my metallic has slipped onto the skin. That can be fixed with a wash, and I'll do that. Claws, not a clue what to do them. They got such an amazing shape. I don't even know what color they should be on the large ones, so I'm open for feedback on that as well. And then I need to be doing some freehand or something on parts like this. I also need to decide what color they're going to be like. Do I go really brave and bring in that pastel blue that I was talking about ages ago? So do let me know about that. Let's go for some of the infantry now. So the Hellstriders steeds, at least, I think have the potential to be really, really, really nice. Let me grab a couple here. So this type of fade, that just looks great across an army. You know, I've got 10 of these, so having 10 of that would be really, really, really good, and it brings a lot of attention to that part of the model. The skin, I think I will decide on this once I've done the keeper, but the skin is bad. The silver, kind of the, whatever you'd call it, the white gold has worked fairly well, but it's just been done in one step, so I need a little bit more back and forth on that. And then I need to bring out the subtle dry brushing and work out exactly what I'm doing on these thighs. These guys will benefit from some type of blotching for sure, just to take them from one point to another. I also need to decide what I'm going to do with the claws on an army level. Like, are those claws going to be pale? Are they going to be gloss black, which I think they might be, that type of thing. So pop two of them close together, and then hopefully you can see the difference between the one that's got the, you know, the turbo pink fade. It just looks a lot better. I need to work out. Still, you know, I'm slightly unsure color-wise what to do on various bits of the model. I like the idea that these get really, really black towards the ends, but some of them, if I can find one, some of them the dry brushing went not as well on. This guy looks a bit grainy. This is what happens when you're rushing. And others, it actually went really nicely on this guy. So that's got a lot more going on. It kind of sorts itself out. Yeah, it's, there's a lot more learning to go on this army yet, because everything that I've done here, I've done it at a minimum level, whereas I could have done it at a maximum level. So let's go to something particularly unforgiving. Let's grab a Demonette. These guys are just not even finished. You know, they look pretty solid, but the white gold areas haven't been washed. The feet probably need another black wash towards the end, as does the end of the tails and stuff like that. And their faces and things need picking out. I've just got to figure out how I'm going to do it, because they're slightly old-fashioned faces and they're not the easiest thing to paint at a high level. Let's go to a big horsey. So the Varangard. These are basically, they just need more stages of the metallic steps, and I will go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and we'll get there, and that's it really. You know, until that's done, they won't quite look how they need to, and I need to differentiate between rider and mount. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I did have the idea that maybe on the mount I would drop in these inner panels with a black or something, maybe even a slightly glosser one. Unsure on that. And then things like straps need picking out, and a couple of specific details. Teeth on the horse, you know, it's just basic stuff. They need to be finished. I hate the heads on these models. I will probably pull them off and try and find a better alternative. Would love some suggestions on that as well. There's a large pool you can pull from for Slanesh bits, so that'll make a big difference. Right, Siggy. So his face actually turned out fairly well. I gave him a bit more love. He looks kind of painterly. That was done in the wee hours just before the event, but his armor I'm really not very pleased with, and this model loses so much not being on his base. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just marble his base. I'll build it, and then I will do my utmost to make the marble effect work on something that's that three-dimensional. But this model, you know, props to the miniature designers. They made something at a not ridiculous scale, and they just put it on a cool base, and it adds to him, and it makes him so much more. So I'll figure that out. Whatever I do with the hair on the keeper, I'll probably echo with Siggy's hair. dark, light, blue. I don't know though. Really unsure with that stuff. And the epitome, quite pleased that I managed to make it work on this base. That was actually done. She's been pinned, as you can see there. Just run a couple of pins through. I'll try and hide that one somehow, but from the front in particular, you only just about see this one. If I knock it back with something, it should be easy to hide, or I could always, you know, put a skull there or something. These guys, the same as the others, they're just unfinished. They've been lightly glued in place, so I should be able to pull them off. I quite like this model though. I think it's just mental, and I built it, which was horrible, so I'd like to paint it nicely. But yeah, that's it really. You know, as far as the units of the army go, there's not a huge amount of variety in there, and for the most part, I just need to bring it up. Impact-wise, they're quite good, but they just need finishing, and I need to make some decisions, like the champions of this unit. What colour is his hair tufty stuff going to be? All of that stuff needs working out. So yeah, all input welcome. Let me know if I've judged these too harshly or not harshly enough. I'd love to see your input, and we will work on some more stuff for this army soon. I'm tempted by the idea of a giant. By the way, I've had a lot of questions about my paint racks. They are wonderful. They're the modular ones from Element Games. I've got the Facehammer Edition ones from my podcast, but basically you can just pull them apart in chunks. The different chunk can be bought depending whether you're a Citadel user or Valet bottles or whatever, and they come with a load of useful other sections, pull out bits, stuff like that. So I find them really useful, and I like my paint storage to be vertical because I have a tiny desk. So anything that is stepped, even if it looks pretty and wonderful, it just isn't a good idea. I was surprised when I poured all of my paints out onto my table, just how many I was holding. Also, you'll note that they're MDF. I've sprayed mine with black, and I think it looks awesome. I really like how it showcases the color. It makes it extremely easy to distinguish the browns in particular and other things that would blend into the background. So nothing wrong with pimping your workspace a little bit at all. Yeah, I even have a little brass plaque on mine, made for me by my mate Terry. That was from when I was running far too many Phoenixes in an army, so I got nicknamed Flappy Flaps. Anyway, yeah, they're wonderful. Any questions about those, let me know. I will link them in the description. There is, you know, you can break them down however you like. Like I might add some more of this top unit here for additional storage, just to make sure that I can go right up to my picture frame to make the most of my teeny tiny painting corner space. I've ripped the rider off. They're, I'm not looking forward to painting them. I might start their skin from scratch. Quite a hard piece to do well. So looking at these, they're quite simple pieces. There's not much going on. It's horns, it's flesh, it's armor / straps, and that's about it really. So those bits need to be done well, but they can be done just crisply. For example, on this, the armor's not going to be needed at, you know, some crazy high level. This stuff though, where it looks dry, is. Now, part of the reason for that is dry brushing over a base that was too dark, because this was on the underside. That needed a mid-tone, but it got a highlight, so it looks fairly fine there and less fine here. So I'm gonna have to work out how to fix that, neaten up the scales, and I'm also gonna have to decide what color I do the spines. I'm gonna try some out in black now. If it doesn't work, we'll not do that, but it needs testing. So I'll try putting some black on a couple of these spines here. No half measures, we're just gonna try a flat black out first. Doing a couple of thin layers. I'm really not sure about this, but it's one of the obvious go-tos, especially for the ones on the feet. I don't know if I want the ones on the feet and the ones on the rest of them to be different colors. Yeah, I'll do it, and then maybe I'll try a gray or something like that. Might be that we want them white and this all gets reversed, but oh well. Now the idea was going to be to potentially gloss these, which would look Slaneshi. So I think it looks good on the toes. Not sure about up here. Needs doing neater, obviously. So I'll neaten these up, and maybe I just do the entire thing, and if it doesn't work, then I fix it. It is a Slaneshi combo of colours, but it is quite bold. Still don't know. Yeah, we're definitely finishing this. I'll finish this off camera, and then we'll jump back and see what we think of it. This one's looking pretty evil. Quite pleased with that one in general. It is a very spiky, dynamic looking one though, due to all of these little spines that are working their way backwards. Some of the others have got fluffy stuff on,
like Captain Seahorse vibes over here. So I do think, however, the black is the right choice, both on the upper sections of the steeds and on the claws and stuff lower down. So at least that's one decision made in the bag, and that's something we can do quite quickly. Tongues, not a clue about tongues. We really, like, loads of animals have really strange tongues. Like I think polar bears or wolves maybe have blue ones or something like that. Could be an interesting place to bring it in, but maybe it'd be a bit over the top. Quite easy to test though, so why not? Let's do that. Weirdly, I've got Vallejo Air Sky Blue here, which is definitely not going to base coat via brush very well, but it's a colour that we have used on the basing of the models. So I should probably airbrush it down, but as we're just doing one, I'll do it over a couple of coats and we'll see what the final effect is like. While we're continuing with our comparisons, my other idea was a glossy purple black. I just like the idea that these things are weird. I think you can, certain armies, especially in Chaos, you can really get away with just doing stuff because it's strange. So that's a line that's very easy to cross though. So let's see how these look with a purple black on them. Yeah, it's pretty cool and weird. Cool and weird is the aim. What do you guys think? May as well get some eyes while we're here. Always makes a big difference to stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do with the pupils, but we'll work it out. Yeah, huge difference. And you're a little bit washed out with the colours on these because there's so much white involved with the lamp, but that eye actually stands out quite a bit in person, especially when we put a black dot in the middle. I'm sure it'll be pretty evil looking. We are actually just going to pop upstairs to the computer because I'm when in doubt, just go and check out Google and nature and see what happens. So rather than wondering what reptilian seahorsey things should have in their eyes, I'm just going to go and look at some lizard eyes. I don't think reptilian seahorse would bring up anything useful. Maybe it would. Let's go and find out. I've just put in lizard eyes. This is great. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Nature's got enough weird shit that I do not need to invent anything here. And if I were to invent anything, it wouldn't be nearly as weird as the most weird thing that already exists in nature. So let's see what we have. Wow. Look at that. Some of this stuff is so cool. It'd be amazing if I could make that happen. Now I'm thinking that I want to give them blue eyes. Dangerous. That's cool touchstone. So just, dark getting lighter in the middle. That is something that we could achieve with washes. I'm trying to be efficient here because I want this to be done across an army, in multiple ways. Having said that, I don't have too many steeds, I don't have too many monsters, I don't have many, too many non-human big, things with large enough eyes for me to do this on. So something like this, I'd only have to do 20 times, 25 times in an army, maximum probably. So that would be a really cool thing to touch on. Oh, wow, look at that. So cool. So yeah, in short, nature has this handled. It's just absolutely fine. Whatever I want could be realistic, could be unrealistic, and it's chaos. God, they look nuts, don't they? One thing I actually am taking away from this that I wasn't expecting to be taking away is this stuff. Look at this. Look at the variation in those scales, and this is really applicable to the Slanesh steeds that I'm doing. So I think maybe I need to be using some kind of varied tones of washes or something. Also, I need to get my something rigged up so I can have this behind my painting area. I need to sort that, as soon as possible, because I think I'm actually holding myself back by, even if it's just like a little tablet or something, having it at the back, being able to scroll between sources of inspiration. I think having that behind your painting area immediately there, not like getting out a phone or something, is just is a really good idea. The best for me actually is just printing it out. So even just having like a little board that could be inserted where I was working that I could magnetize stuff onto or something like that, that would be great. Look at these. That's the best example of kind of the variation of the scales and stuff. I think that is awesome. I mean, this is high level wildlife photography, so of course it is awesome. Look at that. Yeah, it's really cool. Nuts. Absolutely crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna use this for inspiration. Let's see what we can come up with.
It's going to be hard. My eyes are tiny that I have to paint. I might have bitten off more than I can chew here, but you know, if I screw them up, we can make them white. It'll be fine. You could actually glossy either before you did this. That might be a really efficient way to aid the removal. I might have snuck some turbo turquoise in the mix. Slight possibility. This eye came out the best, this one. Okay, so that definitely adds something. Going for standard reptilian eye. Kind of middle-ish, basically, I think. That's not so bad. I would have liked a bit narrower. That's kind of pushed towards looking round, but try and do a better job this time. It's okay. Nice thing about these eyes is that you can't see them both from the front, so if they're slightly different, it doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, I think that seems like a good vibe. I'm not sure about the blue. People can let me know about the blue. What I am going to experiment with a bit further now is just putting some washes around the sockets in purple and see if that adds anything to it. I think I can get quite a lot more out of these scales just by putting in some more nuance of my own choosing. So grab some old white scar because I don't want crazy good coverage here. I think I didn't shake my my blue as much as I should have, my wash. Therefore it's ended up a little bit glossy. The reason for using white scar is I don't want one with fantastic coverage. And if I use something too powerful and made a mistake, it'd go very wrong. Okay, built that up a little bit. I actually did a little bit of further research. I did Google seahorse eyes. They're nuts. They're absolutely crazy. So we got some snakes, some goats, and some seahorses. And so there's a couple of things to consider here. So if they're this weird, that is going to be both hard to do and hard to recognize. Goats are slightly more recognizable, but when you've got a narrow, thin thing, it's much easier to do, I feel, this type of design, which is, you know, immediately reptilian and recognizable, than it is to get that in, although that could look amazing. If it was on a more traditional looking, like a cornate demon or something with bigger, rounder eyes, that would be easier. Got to remember though, the profile we're kind of working in is like long, slithery eyes, which actually look quite a lot like some of the stuff that we were just Googling, right down to the scales around them. So I think we'll let that be the reference that we go to. So probably I'm going to end up with, you know, maybe I could push and have a slightly wiggly one, something like this, but we'll just see what's doable, basically. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what order we should be going in, but what I'm definitely going to do is stop using 3-year-old brushes that have got, so red dots on the end means it's very old. Black dots or silver dots on the end means that I use them for metallic. So rather than using retirement brushes, I get out a baby one. Nice tip. I'm going to try popping down a wash and shading these eyes slightly, see if that's doable around the edge. So it's definitely possible. And then should be able to mop up and remove in the middle a bit. And push. And push. So taking the blue stuff around it, leaving the middle like that. So that's pretty doable. They're really nice and recessed actually. It's quite an obvious bulbous form. Gotta love a good bulbous form. Try it again. I won't dilute as much this time. Push, push, or pull rather. Either way, taking it away from it. And then the other thing we could try is just dotting the edges. Bit too much of my brush there. That works really nicely. So maybe that's how we do it. Try and drop in a bit of Nuln Oil in there. We are going to shake this first, after our mistake of not shaking our washes for the eyes. That looks like it's going to be a better colour. Yeah, should be quite subtle. Fingers crossed. So obviously this isn't strong enough. I should just put some black paint in there. I hope you guys are enjoying me failing to replicate my own scheme. So this has got loads more nuance. I'm going to pick up the dry brush, see if that pulls things back.
Just before that though, I am going to drop a little bit of black paint in there and cross fingers. Going to use a Badham because it's forgiving, because the coverage isn't great. God, it's... this is why we're using it, but it does surprise me every time how soft a black a Badham is. This is why you see me using Vallejo 950 and other blacks quite frequently instead of this. If anyone's curious, but it does make it very forgiving. So testing the same spot we tested the other one, obviously a little bit more dark instantly. I've got quite a lot of depth to this purple now, unsurprising given how many stages and attempts it's taken. Okay, so it's probably gone too far, but let's dry brush it and see. These are looking closer now. You know, we have got slightly closer to our objective. Oh, we might be onto something. A little closer. I'm going to jump to the pure white, I think, even though it's a bit scary. This is a brush that has a bit of purple in it, so that's going to pull it back as well. Okay, so we are closer. We have got closer. We know the key points we need to touch on. I think maybe just hitting it with a slightly bolder wash rather than the airbrush would have been preferable there, but this is about right, and in a unit of 10 a tiny bit of variation is fine. I just wanted to get it as close as possible. Was not expecting it to be that tricky though, to be honest. Oh well. Well, I've got the brush. See if we can learn anything. Still undecided on tongues. They're both weird, aren't they? Let's put a purple wash on the blue one. Medium first. Purple mix after. Might be a bit too subtle, let's find out. Oh no, that looks appropriately soft and weird if it will stay like that. That just looks strange. And when you're doing Slanesh, strange or inappropriate is sometimes appropriate. While we're here, knock this back with that wash mix. You will get there. It's pretty close really. Got it on baby mode, no longer doing a massive army production. Quite nice to be able to use it like this. Obviously using a very old brush for the scooping part of this. If anyone questions why on earth I would do this with a nice one. Just aiming for the head here, what I'm going to do, pop my thumb underneath just for some lazy masking. And take care, which I didn't do there. It's a bit better, but still not quite got the lovely vibe that this one has going on in terms of just how stark the transition is. I don't have black stuff in the middle, contrast, contrast, contrast. This guy's pushing it through and looks really good as a result, so yeah, pass. I think we just need to do exactly what I said. Maybe we need, this has got a really nice warm mid-tone to it, and then it goes dark, dark, whereas this is kind of like a cool purple all the way through, so maybe I need to introduce a little bit of that to kind of get it going on. A little better. Don't know what we're missing though. It's just not quite managing it. This is the issue with doing stuff on the fly. This one does look great from the side though. Okay, so this is the purple that I used, and I kind of just basically kept rolling and topping up throughout the army project. It's a mix of loads of different things, including Liquitex inks, glaze medium, alcohol, thinner, like the works. But it's something I used all the way throughout my army, so it's quite a nice touch point for tying things in. So see, if those were black, if we were doing the darker one, it just gives a really dark thing for other stuff to bounce off color-wise, so I do think I will go in that direction with them. Wet blend, fuzz these in, so I had it on my brush, now I've just got water. That'll help with a nice transition. I do prefer the level of contrast we've got on this nose with a white tongue. It just goes to a little bit darker towards the end, so while I'm here, let's experiment with that. think let's just use a black. I don't know. Or could use a blue, could use a purple. Unsure. There's purple. It's not as dark as it looks though. It is a darker tone, but I wouldn't describe it as dark. And of course, one of the best ways to make things look dark is to put something bright next to them. So if this part of the head was bright like the other one, maybe it would work better. That's it for today. Not a huge amount of progress as far as looking at the army as a whole is concerned, but I am pretty happy with how these have gone and the level of experimentation. So, working out that I think I want to do the darker horns is quite important. Still not quite decided on those tongues. I really want them to be very weird. Maybe a bit more blue, we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of it really. The purpose of these vlogs isn't for me to say like definitely approach things like this. It's not a tutorial, it's not anything like that. It is meant to be a fairly honest and open look at how I approach my own stuff, and hopefully there's going to be some small learning points for people along the way, and also the opportunity for me to get some learning points. So on that note, dark spiky bits, light spiky bits. I quite like the dark ones. Let me know your thoughts though. Tongues, how, what? Eyes, like I think these ones are obviously the easier to do on a small scale, but maybe when I get to some larger models, like maybe I should be trying that. Like that would look mental on a keeper. Like it would look really crazy, and she's got slightly bigger eyes, so maybe I could be tempted. Yeah, that's kind of it really. If you like the look of the airbrush that I was using today, do check out our recent airbrush series. We've got 2 episodes down now, and that's kind of taking people from a beginner perspective, and hopefully we're going to go all the way through the journey until by the end of it we're combining it with airbrushing, dry brushing, washing, the lot all kind of rolled into one, which is what I did to produce my army at this kind of speed. Let me know what you'd like to see in the next episode of my personal stuff. I don't mind which bit of my army I work on particularly. I picked on the horses today, but it could be armor next time or something like that. And if people overwhelmingly think it would be interesting to see me work on the Vanguard, then I'll work on the Vanguard. I don't mind too much really. And I do see this as a kind of combined and community project, although of course it is mine, so at some point I might ignore everyone, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. Anyway, thank you very much for checking it out. Do check out our airbrush sale while it's still going on. I'll make sure that's linked below. Any questions on any aspect of this at all, pop them below, and any suggestions for future content, pop them below as well. They're always really valued. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.